joined by Mr. Viking Goat
Hello.
and Mr. Albert today
Hello.
for the second episode of Dungeon Design using Roll20. Now, I am deeply pleased to have an audience on Zoom that I can mute at my leisure when they say things that I don't like or they're mean to me. I can't do anything about the Twitch chat channel. I can watch it, and I can, if you're participating, I can be filled with good, warm feelings. But I can't really control it. So, just be nice. That's all I ask. That's just it. That's all I ask.
Don't be a dick roll.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So, to bring the two of you up to speed about what we are going to be doing, last episode, Brian and I spent the majority of the episode with fucked up cameras and also designing the grounds of this temple. Now, I'm not 100% sure if either one of you saw the YouTube, which is fine. The temple that we are using is a temple of the Osirian deity from the Pathfinder setting. Osiria is a country very much like Egypt in the Pathfinder Galarian world, and the god of this temple is Thoth, which is the ibis-headed god of knowledge, writing, magic.
May I?
Yes,
I'm going to be pedantic. It's apparently pronounced Tote.
Tote! Oh, okay.
A lot of people pronounce it Thoth because they think the TH sound is soft sound.
So it's basically like TOT. Oh.
Yeah.
See, I did not know that. Is that because... I wonder if what...
I watched, Crash Course, one of the Crash Course courses, and one of the characters they use in it is Tote, so he constantly tells you how it's pronounced. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
I wonder where I found that translation. I wonder if that's like a Greek or maybe just a...
And it might be Thoth, because it's a different, it's not Egyptian, but that's
true.
Generally,
True.
So.
Okay, well, now, hey, already I have benefited from the presence of Mr. Albert.
So
yeah,
pedantry is my hobby.
I'm well versed in the art of pedantry. I know it well, and I accept and love it. So Tote is the god of this temple. This temple is set in the necropolis of a city called Wati. The necropolis is quite large, and this temple is the largest temple in Wadi. The dungeon appears in like 2 sentences of text from the adventure path Mummy's Mask that Paizo put out. A really fun adventure path, but I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't more information about, frankly, any of this. The dungeon is called the Archive of the Ibis.
That sounds super cool.
It is going to be cool. It doesn't exist yet. That's the thing. So we have no rules that we have to follow. And one of the things that I'm doing here in Roll20 is that I'm just using the consumer version. I'm not using the paid version to do all the crazy lighting and effects. That might happen in a later episode. But I want this to be accessible and easy, and all I'm doing is doing blueprints and then adding window dressing. But really, anything that I create here can be replicated in different environments for different gods. It doesn't even need to be a fantasy setting. It doesn't even need to be a temple, anything like that. It's just a slate that you can build from. I just know that some of the blueprinting aspects of dungeon design are intimidating and complex, and I have the neurotic sort of brain that lends itself well to measurements and grids and things like that. So that's what basically we're going to be doing. The first episode was designing the exterior grounds and the dimensions of the temple. According to the notes that I have, we are looking at a 435-foot this way on the x-axis and a 565-foot on the y-axis. The temple is... I'm going to highlight it real quick. For some reason, it doesn't want to let me click. Why are you no click?
Are you...
There we go. I fixed it. For some reason, it's just like, you don't have this window selected. And I was like, that's horseshit. Yes, I do. You liar. So I'm just going to highlight in a sort of a darker purple the actual dimensions of the temple itself. So that's not a very good purple, is it?
Eh.
But you can see the square that I've drawn around. So that the rectangle with the 5 points in it, those 5 square points, that is the actual temple itself, the exterior of the temple. So it's pretty large, but the space around it is quite large as well. The triangles that you see here, both the quadrants in the upper lower corners, and then these triangles here arranged in another pattern of 4, and the triangles in the third pattern of 4 around the temple with the stars in them. That is central kind of to the sacred number of Thoth, which is 3. And I liked the 4 divisions of 3 to equal 12. And then I liked the 2 gates and the 4 statues to equal 6 for 2 divisible by 3. So 3 features is kind of a heavily 3 is a number that is heavily featured in this courtyard. So now what I would like to do is probably add some window dressing today and probably design a couple of encounters. So just to arrange things in a way that I can stand, I would like to start in this upper triangle right here. Let's see if I can... Hang on, let me zoom in real quick. Let's see if I
The
can...
sun and extreme zooming.
Yes, there we go. Zoom out.
Yeah, no. My experience with Roll20, it's
There's no in between.
It's not delicate. Let's say that.
No.
It's not a delicate program.
You can use like little shortcuts to sometimes like kind of wheel it a little nicer, but
Yeah.
it's always...
Sometimes it's just like snap. It doesn't
Oh,
play
you
nice.
wanted the closest vision? Yes. Okay, let's do that.
No, I didn't want that, but here we are. I'll zoom back out. So now the exterior walls of the temple are a bit better displayed here. They're a little bit thicker, easier to see. So I put out a poll today on Twitter to indicate, what kind of creatures we would expect to see in such a place. And surprisingly enough, let me just check my Twitter real fast, but I was under the impression that the insects and arachnids did very well in the poll. Which
Sounds about right.
it sounds about right. I mean, I actually have it tied as of right now. I mean, there's 16 hours left, but we're doing it now. So between salt ghouls and giant insects and arachnoids, which is not a word. I just made that up. Arachnids. So scorpions and spiders and stuff.
Yep.
So given that this is a necropolis, I'm envisioning that we can probably combine both of those in various aspects of the Elder Grounds. And given that this is a centuries-old, long-lost temple, probably the courtyard's full of sand and rubble and detritus and other things like that, not to mention the interior is probably a wreck. In your mind, what would be the better of the two choices for a lower level party? Do you think should we go with the salt ghouls for a level 1 to 3 party here in the courtyard, or should we stick to something a little less hairy, or metaphorically hairy?
I would probably stay away from ghouls because they have paralysis.
They do. This is correct.
Grew up a party because like crowd control for like level 1 to 3 is tough. Because you lock somebody down and
exactly.
So
Even
I would
one
stick to
ghoul is problematic for a party of 4.
Yeah, so maybe like large insectoids or arachnids.
Yeah, sun spiders are probably giant sun spiders, like I don't remember how to pronounce the word. It's like celifugids or something like that. In any case, they could be here. What are they called? funnel web spiders. I don't know if
Mhm.
those are more Australia, but I
Well,
imagine
you
the
have
biggest-
them all over the world, but they're
Oh,
not typically in deserts.
hmm.
But you will have their cousin, the trapdoor spider.
Ooh,
that'd be fun.
ooh,
Yeah, that'd be a nice surprise.
oh, that would be evil.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, I meant like a couple of like Labrador or Chihuahua-sized trapdoor spider colonies here and there.
ugh.
You
Oh,
could
yeah.
also give them like kind of an option of like, oh, you're approaching this area in the sands and it looks kind of funny, and like give them a slight chance to prevent
I like that.
like a
I like
complete,
that.
ambush.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Because then like, oh, one of your characters is a ranger or a thief, and like I spot something weird. It's like you
Yeah.
recognize it
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah, yeah.
nests, and it's like, okay, we're gonna we can't avoid this fight, but at least we can go into it not getting jumped on by spiders or falling into
Absolutely.
the traps.
Absolutely. I think
You give
that's
us
it.
some dynamics to like, oh, you fell into the trap, or oh, you figured out the trap. So
Right,
give
right, right.
options to play with.
I think
Yeah.
that that's absolutely genius. I think that we should definitely uh, fiddle with that, and later on we can maybe dive into bit into the ecology of a dungeon, which has always been a big thing with me. I like
Oh, nice.
I like ecologies to work. I
Okay.
mean, certain ecologies just don't. Undead do not follow the standard rules for an ecology.
No, but I mean, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. They're aberrant.
Yep.
So are aberrations.
I have an alternate creature of the creepy crawly variety. for
Okay,
you
well
as
let's hear it.
Are prone to be in the desert. Maybe giant termites.
Interesting.
They're not normally, violent, but if they're about the same size as you, they
I mean,
might
you're
view
food.
you as food or hostile.
Interesting. Now, okay, the majority of this temple is stone.
Mhm.
How would we work in the termites? It just like I know termites are digging creatures, and they're not just like wood eaters. So yes, obviously there are burrowers. They build those amazingly cool fan-shaped nests. I think that's in Africa.
Yes.
That are like
Yep.
14 or 15 feet tall and have very sophisticated air conditioning systems.
Yes.
Very,
Those
very
those-
cool.
Those actually also that species is prone is sort of does the same thing that some of the South American ants do. They grow fungus. They
Fascinating.
don't really.
So they're like leafcutter ants a bit.
They're sort of like leafcutter ants. There's not a lot of vegetation, like not a lot of trees where they're located.
Right, right. So they have to find some way of producing a food supply.
Mhm.
I wonder if that might be a good internal section of this dungeon, because it is going to have sub-basements to it. This is a complex that goes down and out. So it would not be unusual or ridiculous to assert that somewhere there is a termite colony that has breached into the temple.
And what you could do with that is that like you could have one of those layers be filled with plant life and fungus that kind of like, oh, we found the like upper
Like, this isn't supposed to be here.
yeah. It's like
And-
and it really messes with the whole like, oh, we're just gonna go through this old decrepit temple. It's like, well,
Right.
no, one of those layers is gonna be filled with like a whole bunch of giant termites and fungus and weird stuff, and you're like,
Yeah.
what?
And it makes a weird bit of sense because a lot of this stuff is like it's a temple library because Thoth is the god of knowledge and law, and he
Yep.
nailed down the universe in terms of here are the rules. So a lot of parchment would be in there. A lot of
They could eat that.
they can eat it. They
Or-
can use the
or
pulp to
fungus
create.
could be growing off of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like it. I
Also
like
has
that.
like some kind of natural traps of being like, oh, and I poke this mushroom, and it's like, well,
Oh.
that one.
Sorry.
No.
Well, now you're a yellow musk creeper.
Or you could also have like mold slimes. Have fun with that. That's
Ooh,
always
slimes,
Ah.
Yeah.
puddings,
Ooh, oozes and puddings
oozes
and
and
slimes
pudding.
those are always fun. Like
and gear
challenges
fuckers.
for young or for early groups.
Mhm.
Like you give them one, and you're like, okay, figure this out. Yeah, don't poke your stuff at it because it might melt. Or it might
Right,
eat.
right. So
Yeah.
let's jump into this funnel or this trapdoor spider angle.
Mhm.
I kind of want that to be one of the first annoying and terrifying things that they encounter.
Who
Like-
here doesn't like spiders?
Who here? Raise your hand if spiders are cool, and like nobody raises their hand ever.
Mm.
Maybe in a person who studies spiders thinks they're cool, or maybe somebody who really likes spiders, man, thinks that they're cool, but they're creepy and they're unpleasant and they have too many legs and eyes.
I find them helpful as long as they stay in their part of the room
Absolutely.
and not come to where I am.
Like, look, I have a relationship with spiders. Like, if you are outside in your world, I am the guest. And, like, I'll be careful. If you are in my world, in my apartment, things are a little different. You're under my rules. And if you are skittering across my floor, I'm not super fond of you. And you need to go away. But, so, do you think we should keep the triangle motif going, or should we break off? Because how I'm picturing this funnel web, or excuse me, trapdoor spider colony, is as the largest temple in Wadi at the time, it probably would have had extravagant displays of wealth, particularly for a desert sort of environment, like pools of water or like bathing area, or somewhere that would be recessed. Another thing that occurs to mind is a sort of amphitheater set into the ground, sort of so that people could have like teaching sessions or trials or things like that. So do you think that the triangle aesthetic needs to be maintained, or can we break off from that?
I think it can be maintained. How large are these areas again? Like, for example,
this is I will get out my measurement tool.
Okay.
And I will make it such that I'm gonna just choose this color pink. Yes. So if we start here, and I'm gonna zoom in. So prepare yourself for nausea. Bam.
Extreme zoom.
Oh god. Now if we, so like these are measured in 5-foot increments.
Oh, okay.
So measuring from here, you can see that this is
that's neat.
Hundreds of feet long.
Yep.
So we have a ton of room to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, even like a sort of a pool that's like, I don't know, 40 by 40, like that's huge.
That's gigantic.
Yeah. I mean, you still have tons of space.
Yes. So
I mean, you can do like several pools in kind of like a collective area and be like, there's just sand in them. It's like, yeah, sure, just sand in them.
Yeah. Okay. Evil laugh. All right. So let's see.
Yeah, one of these would easily hold a good-sized amphitheater.
Yeah.
For
that, let's do the pool idea, because I definitely think that they would have it. And then maybe down here.
If you do have like extravagant, like sort of like, oh, we had pools in here, it's like, well, then just get covered in sand and debris, and perfect habitat for like a trapdoor, because it's already been dug out. They just live in that.
This sort of temple have a pool at the entrance, sort of like, welcome, behold, we have this reflecting pool.
Right.
Check it out.
The gate is in this area. You see this square. I haven't got the dimensions of the whole gate. Like the gate house is like 80 feet or something like that, 75 feet. So it's quite large.
Yep.
So the gate itself is probably more along the lines of 40 or 30 or something like that. So a sizable edifice.
Yep.
So one of the first things that could happen, and here's my thought. If we were to path this out, I'm going to just freehand draw this. So let us say that you walked in to the temple, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a shitty arrow. We're going to deal with it. You are presented with, naturally, 3 opportunities for directions you could go. You could go south, north, or straight to the temple, right? So the very first thing upon walking in, you'd probably see steps in this area and steps in this area, both leading down to certain things. Like either one, like down here is the amphitheater, or up here is the pool. Either one, it could work. So I don't think that particularly matters, but we could say that like steps and maybe like a veranda to look at the pool in sort of a triangular shape, and then further steps down into the pool. So sort of nested triangles on each other.
I'm really,
Yes.
my mind is liking the pool thing, but my mind is also constructing an amphitheater in the dimensions of these triangles.
Okay. Well,
Well, like one
good.
of them, we don't all have to have amphitheaters, so, but
No, no, no. Certainly not. Certainly not.
yeah, that wouldn't make any sense. But I can see having like a slight stair step up to a ramp that goes along the, I'll call that west, and I'll call the north.
Yeah.
Up
Here,
and
let
up
me
and
just count, or let me just cardinal direction this out because it's going to be important.
okay.
There.
I can see the curve of the amphitheater where people sit going along the western and northern wall, so that the presentation area is actually closer to the temple.
So okay. So if you were going to do the amphitheater, you
Mhm.
would let me shape this
So the exterior wall would be stair steps down worth of seating.
Okay, so if this is not going to be a perfect circle, obviously, but you're suggesting that if we amphitheatered this out, now traditional amphitheaters, and correct me if I'm incorrect, if I'm wrong here, they're lowered into sort of a triangle at the very point wherein the actual performance or lecture or what have you takes place, and people are in tiered rising seats in sort of a semicircle around it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
we could start with this circle. And then sort of shit. This is not going to be perfectly measured, but we're just going to deal with it. Sort of along the lines of that, where like I don't have an erase function, but this curve isn't there, and this curve is like the far end.
Mhm.
And we could
Yeah.
obviously like make this less sharp. And yeah, I like that.
So my question is, what's in or what's about the amphitheater? Like, what form of encounter would you put in there?
Well, given that both are set deep, like lowered into the ground,
Mhm.
or like probably the amphitheater would not be raised into the sky, so that it wouldn't
Yep.
conflict with the shape of the temple as you were looking at it. Like it would not break the plane of this wall right here. Both are going to be deep areas and probably full of sand. So
Okay, yeah.
there's a couple of different options. I love the trapdoor spider thing. That's extraordinary. I think that definitely needs to happen because that's a terrifying encounter.
Yep.
I am also a fan of an antlion encounter, a giant
Oh,
antlion.
that would be good. Yeah.
Ooh, that would be great for an amphitheater too.
Maybe that's kind of like one of the mouths into their nest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, amphitheater, like what's in there?
Terrifying creature
Yeah.
that's going to probably eat you.
I have never seen an antlion. I've seen antlion holes. We have those in Florida, like the little.
Yeah.
But I've never actually seen the antlion. Do they actually stick their heads up out of the hole, or they just hang
They
out
hang
at
out at the bottom with their jaws in the sand.
like up or
Yeah,
up?
kind of like just
That's
sort
a
of like a
significantly
pincer.
terrifying insect.
Yeah, it's
Huh.
if you this is another terrifying creature, but it lives in the ocean. It's called a bobbit worm. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay,
Sounds-
they're terrifying. They're like the antlion of the ocean, except they're like snakes with a bear trap on the end.
Mm.
They're fucking awful. They check this out. They are so deep in the water that they have like biometals.
Oh, when I googled it, why would I do this?
Yeah, why would you do that? I tried to tell you. No.
It's like a centipede or a millipede meets an antlion.
It's fucking
Oh
awful.
wow!
And like it has like this creepy metallic shimmer to it because
Yep.
it has biometals in its skin.
Yep.
Wow!
Yeah, the
Yeah,
ocean
that's
is
some
terrifying.
nightmare- that's
I
some
don't go
nightmare
there. I don't do it. No. It's bad. I don't participate in the ocean. Save the
Yeah.
ocean, but I don't participate in it.
You know what? Like let's keep it clean and pristine, but let's just never go in it
Yeah, of
because
course.
everything that
How
is out to kill
else are we going to keep
I was
it
trying
clean
to
and
explain
pristine?
this to somebody. I was like, well, they're like, why are you afraid of the ocean? I was like, because I wasn't designed to live in it.
you.
Like,
The ocean is also very terrifying.
yeah, like
Everything in there is very good at killing you.
everything in there was purpose built to survive there,
Yeah.
and I am not.
No.
I do not have the advantages on land that I do in the water, so
Yeah.
I don't go there. Oh no! It just killed Zoom.
What?
Because I'm hosting Zoom, it's trying to kill Zoom.
No.
Let me become host.
Quick! How do you do
I
that?
do that?
Here is a GIF. We have removed the first 40-minute time limit on your first group meeting. Your meeting now has unlimited minutes. Okay, cool. Thanks, Zoom. Interrupting my show. You bastard. It didn't do this last time.
Probably because you fired off the invite.
Oh, probably.
And not EDR.
Well, can you claim host?
I'm attempting to, but it doesn't seem to let
done.
me.
Make host.
Oh,
You are
I'm
now
host
the
now.
host, if I can go.
You're the host now. It says, hurrah!
I have the power.
But I was thinking, so imagine you're coming up to this amphitheater and it's all covered in snow. Not snow, sand. I got snow on the brain. And you see these just art installation, like this is clearly the top of some statue, but no, they're jaws. So when you come up to it to like chisel off the gold or something, you're devoured if you're not careful.
Or it looks like some kind of animal skull, like of a very large creature, or something that would entice the players to go into the pit, or to trigger the antlion.
Yeah. I mean, you need to get them within, like, sort of a relative distance, because once it's, like, they're close, the antlion's like, well, I mean, you're near my nest.
And I'm going to eat you. I would like to eat.
So the theory of the antlion hole is once something walks into it, the sand begins to give way.
Yes. The pit is designed of very loose, powdery sand. I don't actually know how they figured that out, but creatures, usually ants, will fall into it and like try to get out and crawl, and their movement triggers the sort of the sensory capability of the antlion, and it will come out and like flick sand at them in some cases for some species to try and get them to fall.
Oh, to make it more difficult for them to walk.
Yes. Or like it could also just crawl out and be like, I got you.
What if all of the things it cannot digest, it just leaves out there like...
It vomits them up.
Other adventurers' gear.
Yeah. Pretty
Gold
shinies always
wool.
get people to go in
I
things.
like it. I like it because it can't eat those.
Yeah.
No.
It's
Or
just
doesn't
that
want to eat them, yeah.
this pit is strewn with a handful of baubles here, gold
You
coin
see a
there.
sword hilt sticking out of the sand. Or
down towards the bottom.
And you know someone in that party is going to be like, I want that.
yeah, or like the gleam of a helmet just peeking out of the sand.
Yeah. And they'll think, oh, it's just a pile of, like, old treasure or something. It's like, nope.
No.
Nope.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty
Yeah.
shinies always get people to do things.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, and they do. You're absolutely correct. So in terms, I don't know. Let's see here.
Can you move that circle?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I just have to highlight it. Oh, doesn't want to highlight.
You on the wrong.
Prepare
layer
for
again.
nausea.
Ah.
No, that was enough.
I would move it closer towards the northeasterly wall.
Northeasterly wall. So up here.
Oh, no, go back to the area where we are. That wall there.
So this wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that the seating that they do see curves along the outside wall going downward.
So sort of like this.
Yeah.
And then so
And then that circle is the original amphitheater, but mostly covered in dirt or sand.
and so this is the sort of deep part of the amphitheater. That's a shitty triangle. Just we're gonna live with
The
that.
performance part is up against the northeasterly wall there.
Oh, so you want this to be a circle?
It can help. Some amphitheaters are circular,
Okay.
and then you build up concentric
Okay.
seats
I
away so
understand.
that the voice carries out.
Yeah.
To the
Okay. That
audience.
makes sense. That makes sense. So you're saying, and I'll just put like a square or something. Um, so the speaking section is in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me let's do it like that, and then we can manipulate this image a little bit. Prepare for nausea.
I think Roll20 should turn that into a T-shirt.
Prepare for nausea. So in this manner,
Roll20, prepare for nausea. It just makes sense to me.
and then we could I suppose express this with further concentric circles, but it's not like they're gonna dig the amphitheater out. That would take weeks.
You sort of give them like maybe an idea, like maybe the top like 2 layers of seats are exposed still or something like that. So just give them like a little bit, so they're like, oh, this was an amphitheater. Like,
okay.
Cool.
So we have
at least they have an idea what they're stepping onto, rather than just like, what is this?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the amphitheater, this main structure, which is fantastic. I love it. Now, the surrounding environs. Now, obviously, the encounter is going to be in the amphitheater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picturing sort of very pleasant paths with maybe statue work on either side. This maybe would have been a garden area, or with benches.
Generally traditional is to have like sort of an amphitheater either in like an area that naturally sort of has sort of the ability to just build that kind of that acoustics, or you'd have it. So when I was in Greece, I was at the Parthenon, and there's a natural amphitheater just off of like all the, like the temples and stuff like that. It's
right.
Kind of down the hill. So generally you're building in an area where like you'll have a temple and something else, and so you have accoutrement to sort of the area.
Okay.
Yeah, a garden or statuary or a couple things could be placed in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say just sort of off this area, we can path this out. It doesn't have to be organic pathing or anything like that.
Yeah.
It can just sort of meander.
That would be even better for the acoustics of an amphitheater, because you would want to drown out the exterior noises.
Yeah.
With plant matter and things like that, have a nice relaxing walk up to the amphitheater, and it knocks back the exterior sounds.
Sure.
So maybe this area was like hanging gardens. You just had like gardens everywhere.
Like garden, yes, and that's an excellent picture of the wealth that this temple would have had.
Yeah.
It's definitely, hey, look, we can afford plants because water is not a resource that is easy to come by in the desert, particularly transporting lots of water.
Yeah.
So we are gonna then.
This is rich in like multiple fashions.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is gonna be a lovely, sort of just meandering path, just wide, welcoming. No real concern developed by the path. It's actually quite pleasant, even though it's centuries dead and sandy. There's probably some statue work.
Still got the pillars and statue work that would hold up potted plants and various things like that.
Yeah,
are still around.
in fact,
so you have like remnants. Either it's completely overgrown and there's just stuff everywhere, like plants everywhere, or everything is dead, but there's like remnants of what was there.
Right.
So either one way or the other, you create interesting sort of story as to what's going on here.
Right, of course. So stars are statues in my book. It's just that's what I'm doing in terms of the stars.
Yep.
That's an old, apparently, 2nd edition thing that I learned, that stars represent statues.
Oh.
I did not know that.
Based on what I read of the old adventures and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? Maybe a large statue off, like in this.
Like Thoth is right there.
Thoth is right there, and like it is his temple, so he would kind of have.
They want to have a temple or a statue of him there, so like all the performances, lectures, and stuff like that, he was always watching over.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
He was present in that sort of
and because Thoth is the teacher, and he ensures that the lesson is transmitted.
It could be a nice little like history point if someone's like, "Oh, what statue is that?" And you're like, "Well, religion or history."
Religion or history. Absolutely, I love it. So
Yeah.
okay, amphitheater, and I like the dead angle more. Like
Yeah,
I want
it makes more sense. But again, like if you want to go like, oh, there's just plant life everywhere. Like it's just overgrown.
It's fecund.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
but
if this
you
were
could
a
also
delta
call, like,
temple,
if it's a necropolis,
yeah,
everything is just like dead, but there's remnants of like this looked like a hanging garden.
like this would have been beautiful. Like
Yeah.
and that
And now
sort of
it's just-
lost sensation.
Yeah. Now it's just, everything's dead.
I have an idea.
Okay, I'm listening. I want to hear. I want to hear it.
You enter the temple and you have to do a will save, because there's an anti, like a statue at the entry or something like that, or like a placard at the entry, something at the entry. Once you get past the gate, there's an anti-looter or a robber field still in place. If you read something or you look at something and it looks at you, and you're like, now everything seems nice and safe. So when you walk down that path, it's still lush.
Yeah,
and you walk down the
that's
amphitheater,
brutal.
It's still like there's someone giving a lecture, and you've become enchanted by this, so you have to do will saves. But you just walk right into the antlion.
You know, there's these things called haunts in Pathfinder, in the horror book. I don't remember the name of the book itself, but they're when really bad things happen in certain locations, the location itself can become tainted, and it's like a lingering magical trap, so to speak. Like you can dispel haunts with certain rituals, but like you can't detect haunts. Like they just kind of, you wander in and they happen. So that kind of haunt would be very curious and would add to the challenge of this. Because if like a couple of the party members fail and one's not, they're like, "What are you doing?" We're like, "Well, we're going to school. We're going to our lessons."
Can't you hear that?
Can't you hear the bell?
There's a lecture starting.
Can't you hear the call to the lesson? No, I can't, and I'm deeply aggrieved that you can. I don't want to go there. So, all right, I like that. I'm gonna call that pretty well set up and complete. So I'm gonna make some text here. Oops. Oh wow. Oh, I forgot how far out we're zoomed. Whoops. Let's do 40. There we go. Ant-lion encounter. And I wish I could bold that, but I can't, so... Let's see if we can get larger. 72. Oh, too large. Go back. Reverse course. Reverse course. Okay, that was awful. Ant-lion encounter. Oh, okay, if we add in the haunt, like up here, like in this sector, what are you, like, CR wise? I don't think antlions show up in the monster manual, or I'm not sure if they do or not.
Probably wrong.
Let's find out.
I'm sure they've added antlions at some point in D&D.
I mean, you're probably right.
I don't know if they're in this one, but so I have two of the computerized versions of like old second edition campaigns.
Oh.
The original Strahd campaign, which is the Curse of Strahd.
Right.
And there's a second one that they built on top of that, which was the what is it called? Just 1 second. The Stone Prophet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
An Egyptian campaign one. I want to think there were antlions in that, or at least that would make sense if they created them.
Oh wow, this is a very large amphitheater. This is 85 feet across.
Yeah,
no, that's
pretty big.
Yeah.
I like it.
Giant antlions are not officially in 5th edition.
Okay.
There's a homebrew here thing for it, and challenge rating is 1.
Right. So like this dungeon is going to be designed to be portable to any system, like Genesis, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, anything. You can do anything with this. So 5th edition is something that people know very well. So I think it's reasonable to put an antlion from the homebrew section in there. There's CR1, and I don't know if I want to jump into the mechanics of that real quick, but I think the haunt aspect with a sufficiently high like wisdom or intelligence save would probably crank that to 2, or maybe 3.
Depends if is the haunt just simply like a mesmerization of like the characters want to walk there, or does it do something else?
Haunts can compel fear. Haunts
Okay.
can compel hostility in Pathfinder. Like they can make you go crazy for a little bit and attack each other, like with a confusion spell. Some haunts give like crushing despair or something like that, which is like -2 everything for
Oh wow.
minutes or hours, depending on the level of the haunt. Some haunts make you try to reenact the events.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Which in this case would be like there's a lecture going on. They want to go to the lecture. They're walking the path. They're walking into the antlion's trap
yes.
unknowingly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
Okay.
whatever else it does. Okay, so it can be just simply be like a simple compulsion.
Right.
or
Like
It's got a pretty broad spectrum.
yes, it's a broad spectrum. So you could like replicate it with a spell like a greater command or something like that. Maybe not greater command, but that kind of idea.
Yeah, it turns out this one gives you a Gaius. What?
What? I beg your pardon? Yeah.
need to
Go
find this
apologize
book.
to every goblin you meet. That's your guess.
Yeah.
That's awful. Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?
I
turns out
think I've been
there's,
mispronouncing that word for years now.
How are you pronouncing it?
Geese?
Oh, well, geese.
Oh,
I don't think anybody's mad.
I've never heard anyone said it out loud before.
I don't think anybody's angry, man.
I think that's part of the problem is that no one ever says the word because no one knows how it's actually pronounced. Just a theory.
Okay. All right. So I'm content down here. Let's be generous and just say CR2.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you're building this currently for, say, like small or beginner parties, then yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and like that's a cool encounter. That's irregular. And like you can really build that tension of like, oh, it spits sand at you. Oh, you're falling. Roll an athletics test or an acrobatics test. You can make it a skill thing too. I hope you're not wearing heavy armor.
Ooh.
You just sink.
You
into the
you
jaws.
fall.
You're
Now you're battling the antlion.
Sand gets inside your armor, and you cannot move it easily.
Shit. Yeah, that's good. I like that. So let's go up here to this upper quadrant, and let's put more horrifying creatures in it. Let's just festoon it with doom. So pool, triangle pool or square pool? I think.
Hexagonal?
That's gonna take some time because I'm gonna want to draw a decent hexagon.
Does that not a shape?
It's not a shape that this program can
Never
make.
mind.
No. You got basic lines.
You got
and circles.
squares and ellipses, man.
Yeah.
So what's a polygon do?
Polygon is like I can make
Oh, it's just a yeah, never mind.
lines like that.
Oh,
So, yeah.
I'm guessing that shape thing is not a shape thing at all. That thing that looks like a cube?
It kinda
That is the
squares.
layer. That's a layer option.
Yeah.
Basic
Believe
shapes,
me.
why can't...
If I had the option of like hexagons, I'd be like, yes, that's extraordinary. I love it. Okay. Let's make the pool. And then
Large.
bet. Let's do.
And then you can have like a pathway that's elevated above it because back when this place was still open, maybe there was like fish in the pond and water lilies, and this is a
I imagine like this
meditative
was
walk
kind of
thing.
a pool, like a decorative pool, but also a bathing pool, and also maybe
okay.
a ritual pool. He is the ibis-headed god. I imagine either a flock of ibises would be here, or maybe statuary of ibises, sort of a welcoming place that the sacred animal could be, but also the parishioners or the supplicants. So yes, I definitely think that there ought to be a raised section, sort of like either when it was hot in the day, sort of a shady raised area off the ground that people could hang out, or maybe a sunbathing area, or things like that. Is the question I have then is, do we want that on the temple side of things, like on this side, or do we want that on the wall side of things so that people could like look out into the city?
You might have a little bit of both because as the sun rises, I'm assuming it'll be still in the east, that would be the shady area. And as the sun is setting, the other side is now the shady area. But it's also warm at night because it's been bombarded by the sun all day.
I like it. And here's another thought that I just had while you were speaking. What about a bridge over the triangle? Like leading...
That's what I was mentioning for like a walking path.
So like
a raised walking.
So like over this central area, like leading to the platform here. That's sort of like if I'm gonna choose a different color real quick to represent. Let's do bright green because now we're getting into elevation. So let's say,
just in case we have someone watching that is colorblind, maybe not bright green and bright pink, maybe something. So no red green color blindness.
Right.
It is the most common.
This is true.
Try blue.
Okay.
Why not blue?
Let's see if we can have a sufficiently dark blue. So like that, where this blue is now above the upper corner, and then it's got a bridge probably, let's just draw a shape. Nope, stop that. I want blue. Change to blue. So let's say... Oops. Oh. Let's see here. Prepare for nausea. It's about 10 feet.
It's a very wide bridge.
Yeah, it's 10 feet wide.
Okay.
The squares are representative of 5-foot increments.
Yeah. So. I mean, a 10 foot wide bridge is...
It's not that wide.
Hijinks and easy measurements for a lot of settings and style. It's like, oh, how wide is the bridge? Like, well, why do you want to know? It's like, well, I have a spell. It's like, okay.
Explain yourself.
Or, you have characters like, can we walk side by side? It's like, yes or no.
Can we walk two abreast? No.
Maybe the bridge is really narrow.
Maybe it is.
Yep.
Maybe it's just barely a footpath.
So, okay, and then this other, this shape can be shrunk at any point inward. So, do you think it should extend into this area here, or should it be kept mostly to the pool?
What is that area there?
We haven't determined it. This is an open area. In this,
it's an open. So that pink line is not a wall then?
No, I'm sorry. The only walls that are currently existing are the walls of this rectangle with the 5 points in it,
and
the exterior
rectangle.
walls.
Okay.
So these are just lined out for my purposes. They would be inlaid either with like a small raised area, like maybe a 2-foot high wall, or maybe a laid with gold leaf or some indicator that you are along a line, a triangle. So this could go up to the temple if we wanted.
Like if you went to that raised platform to get to the temple, or vice versa, you'd have to get into the temple to get there.
Right. Maybe the stairs or the way up to this is like this area here is not functional, or maybe some other means of preventing egress to this space exists, and you would have to go into the temple and then leave the temple through this bridge, or vice versa. You could go through this main entrance on this side, or you could go through this secondary entrance on the second floor.
That's neat. Yeah.
So, do we want to go ahead then and extend this to the temple itself? Do you think?
I think that would be
Because that's
cool.
a very long bridge. I don't mind that, but it's quite long.
I mean, either in my mind, either the bridge ends at the beginning of the water, in which case you use it to cross the water, or you're using it to get as a more convenient method of getting from like the temple.
Okay.
Or because I don't see it extending any further beyond the water unless it's for that purpose.
Like, right, there would be no requirement for it to be that long.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, for God's sake. Stupid shape tool.
Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
if there's one thing I'm not a huge fan about Roll20 is it's kind of...
It has a level of clunk to it.
Yep. Yeah, they have yet to work that out.
No, they have not. Okay, so let's say that leads to a walkway, and then you could take the ramp or bridge, if you will, arcing up and over the water to this raised area. What do you think?
So what's under that area then?
Under the bridge?
No, the raised area.
Just a shady spot?
Okay.
So like a shady place to hang out, and then on top is a sort of pavilion? Or maybe a ritual area? Or theoretically could be anything.
Yeah.
Maybe that area is for the temple staff. Like they have a party deck.
I just see like the doors underneath it, like employee only.
Yeah, dude. No, no. You do not get to come up here.
I can actually see that being where, like, the groundskeeper would feed the fish, store their things, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So that things are not necessarily done always.
Okay.
So you could even add like, it's a huge area, but yeah, that seems like a maintenance area / like a privacy space for the birds when they don't want to be around
like
people.
Like an aviary?
Yeah, they go behind some rushes over there in the shade, and they just hang out, and they're not in front of people all day.
Okay.
And
so under this platform is what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, not
under
on top of the platform, but under.
No, under that platform is it's not quite an aviary, but more like just where certain priests go to take care of the birds.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Because that would definitely be a function that these priests would have.
Mm-hmm.
They would definitely, absolutely have a dedicated person or persons to care for the temple wildlife.
And you worked your way up to that.
Yeah, you're caring for the manifestation of Thoth on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal.
So I can see you having, if not encountered in that area specifically, and I can totally see something like some nice lore building happening in that space. Like you're finding manuscripts, not necessarily like a really cool manuscript about but like a basic. Here's what it means to properly take care of an ibis and stuff like that.
Sort of like diving a bit into the priesthood.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's the sort of reward of like dealing with the trapdoor spiders.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, they congregate in this area, sort of like here. It's not doing it. Hang on, it's not pinging. There we go. Sort of like in these areas on your way to the shady spot.
Yes, I can see that.
Yep.
And you get past them, and well, it's not just that, but you were rewarded with some lore, and maybe um, someone managed to get past. Someone managed to get past the spiders into that space, but they never managed to get out.
I like it. Spider venom is extraordinarily debilitating.
So you find someone's journal. You find a skeleton.
You find an adventurer or a tomb raider or something.
Yeah.
Could be a lot of things.
Yeah, I like it, and especially like the adventurer angle because Wadi, the city, part of Osirian's current history in Galarian is that they're sort of recovering from the occupation of fantasy Great Britain or France. So, like, France just pulled out and like said we're done and left everything in a state of kind of shit.
That just sounds like what happened.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. It's a very shallow analog. It's not hard to dive into.
We're not digging too far into fantasy here.
No, we're not. It's actually quite real.
We just slapped a coat of fantasy paint on top of that.
Well, the nations are not France and Egypt. It's Osirian and Taldor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But one of the things that the sort of in an act of desperation, the pharaoh of Osirian, like the ruler of all of Osirian, has decided is that in years past he decided this, that there will be state-sanctioned tomb raiding, where once a year for X amount of days, the tombs of Osirian become open, and if you have a license and you go through the proper channels, you're given an allotment of a tomb to go and plunder, and you have to pay out the nose to make that happen, and certain aspects like there are certain things that you can't take from the tomb, or if you do take from the tomb, you give to the government, and they pay you very, very well. Or you can just take what you find, and it's yours. And so the licensing process of this is like a major moneymaker. It's like big game hunting for tomb raiders.
When you were describing it initially, before you said it was described it as more of a organized thing, I had this image of like all the tomb raiders line up along the desert. And then
oh no, that happens. That happens.
Someone fires off a gun and they just run.
I'm almost certain that happens. In cities, it's regulated.
Oh, okay.
Like, and Wadi is like a very Pharasman city, and she's the goddess of death. She apportions out the fate of every mortal who dies, and sends them to their afterlife. Right? Says, "Oh, we're gonna set you over here in the Thoth pile, so Thoth can come get you." Right? Essentially. That's a very crass way of looking at it, but it's not inaccurate. She and her clergy hate the shit out of this policy. They really don't like it because it's sacrilege to them. So they had to be basically strong-armed into agreeing to it. So their rules are immensely strict in the places that they control. So like here in the adventure path, I think you get like a week, and that's it. If you don't do your shit in a week, you don't get to do it for another year. Sorry. So that's
an interesting way of making a living.
Yeah, very cool. And the citizens of Wadi who aren't Pharasmans love it because it's like all business from across the planet rolls in, and they're like, "Hey!" Like all the shop vendors are super psyched to sell to adventurers. The brothels make a killing, the bars make a killing. Just everybody has a good time except the Pharasmans, and they hate it. And I think that's funny.
Yeah. Nice. I see the humor.
So I like where we're at here. Now, are we looking at a swarm encounter for this, or a individualized creature encounter?
I would say I have like a few of them, but not a swarm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, well, again, how big would these creatures be?
I'm thinking about the size of like a cocker spaniel.
Okay, so technically small category.
Like small category, like hobbit-sized. Well, maybe not hobbit-sized spiders, but like halfling-sized spiders.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I see it not as a swarm as well. I see it more of a minefield.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
Several kind of like they're close, but they're not too close.
So
realistically, like maybe get one or two, or you potentially get like a whole bunch.
So let me do this. You said that pink was a bad color?
Well, no, green and red hues together. Well, not necessarily a good idea, because red-green colorblind, you will adjust your monitor to filter out one or both of them.
Oh, I see. I understand. So is pink
Or you'll
okay?
have plugins to work with it.
Right.
Pink is fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So let's just to
It shows up as gray, basically, as a grayscale.
I see.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not realize that was. I knew that like it was color blindness was a thing and red-green color blindness. I just didn't realize that a monitor had to be adjusted to show one or others.
There are applications that will adjust for it automatically, and then there are ways to adjust your monitor purposefully on your own.
A lot of
For
video games
example-
have colorblind settings as well. Like a lot of Blizzard games are famous for having.
Yeah, I do recall.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last game I played, but it's like adjust for color blindness. Maybe it was Destiny. I don't remember.
It wouldn't surprise me. A lot of big games tend to include it because they know their player base is commonly has color blindness,
All right, prepare for
and
nausea.
it can be very excluding for people who can't
Oh,
tell.
certainly.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, it's apparently quite simple to adjust for at this point. Yeah.
Okay. So now here are the two areas on either side of the bridge. Should we have a third area underneath the bridge?
I would, yes.
So
Yeah.
you thinking
And then-
here or to link these two together?
Further away.
Do it in like maybe a triangle kind of position. So again,
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
creating again more of that geometry that sort of creates.
That
a
even
three-points.
like this place is so lawful that even the creatures in it adhere to the rules still.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah, I like that.
Weirdly enough.
That's fucking cool. All right, let me...
Something just beyond explanation makes them do this.
Well, why is everything a triangle? Well, who can say?
It's just nature, man.
I mean,
We're
that kind of makes
spiders.
an
We're just
interesting little like potential fluff point of like, maybe somebody does like a history or a religion check and it's like, this is kind of weird, and the temple has some kind of residual juju to it that's like things just seem to kind of work out this way.
I can
How do you
see a
explain it?
DM.
They just do.
I can see a DM saying, "Roll a perception. Do a perception roll." And you're like, everything in here is triangular. In fact, your roll was so good, you start realizing that everything you walked by so far, even the monster positions, were triangular.
Yeah.
Just everything was a triangle.
And roll for madness.
That's a fantastic idea. I like that. Like roll to have your perception of reality shift. One thing that this is not related to this game or this dungeon at all, but one of the fun ideas I had for a crusade-based game in Pathfinder, there's a deity called Iomade. She's the lawful good goddess of soldiers, war, justice, good, and law. She's a big deal. She's in charge of like all the holy crusades against demons and stuff like that. She rolls pretty heavy. There was a campaign, I can't remember if it was homebrewed or not, but like I had an idea to introduce a saint NPC whose like Iomede's investiture into that mortal was so strong that where she walked, the paving stones straightened. Like just she had an aura around her where things could not be disorganized.
That's super neat.
Like she would walk and the paving stones would vibrate and they go and like be perfect and stay that way.
And then cities would hire this person to just walk around.
Hey, can you just walk around? No, that's
traverse our roads so they just fix themselves.
that's deeply sacrilegious. We're not going to just straighten your roads for you. No.
So if we turn this into a law, then you have to do it, right? Damn it!
I demand crusade on this city. This is some bullshit. Can we crusade? Can we crusade these guys?
Lawfulness and therefore crusade.
I hate you, crusade. Oh,
Is this
thanks.
really a saint? Yes. And the hijinks ensued.
And the hijinks did ensue. Yes.
Lawful crusade hijinks, but crusade or hijinks nonetheless.
Okay, so what is there now? Okay, here's the question that I have. Is this a trigger one at a time thing, or is if you step on these squares, it's go time and they all show up?
I suspect.
I kind of give some wiggle room on that.
Okay.
So maybe you have a thief or rogue character who is really light on their feet, or has like a levitation something. They can kind of get around that.
Yes.
Or
Okay.
maybe they just like, oh, you pass the check, you don't alert these spiders. They don't seem to notice your presence. But you have like, say, like a fighter or a paladin who's like tromp, automatic.
Right. Okay.
You kind of give wiggle room as to, allowing like, oh, it doesn't automatically because maybe somebody's good enough to get past it.
Okay.
Or they have a magical means, or something to get around that, based on maybe they're just careful, paranoid. They spotted something odd. Give people options, unless you want to be cruel and just be like, nope, fuck it, spiders.
Spiders for everyone.
Yeah.
So what I'm
You
doing,
like spiders? No. Well, spiders.
Spiders.
Yeah.
Were you rude to me? Spiders.
We've all had those days.
We've all had those days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that people have to go into the pool to get into this blue area. Underneath the blue area, I should say. So I'm thinking locked doors or a wall.
I would say wall. Doors give people at least an option, potentially, to remove it and or destroy it.
Okay.
Because if people see a wall, they're like, oh, it's a wall. I can't get past it.
It's true.
Like, unless you might
we could lockpick that, or destroy it, or take it off the hinges. Believe me, I have experience with this.
I'm trying to figure out how best to indicate wall, because that looks like door to me. Oh, I know what I'll do. There, I'll just fill it in.
Yeah.
Yay, paint. Yay, finger paint. Finger paint.
So, like, in sort of my DM experience, it's sometimes you have to really think about, like, the meta of things, of, like, why you put doors in certain places, windows and walls. Like, you sort of think the sort of philosophy behind the architecture.
Absolutely. It has to have a reason.
Walls make a much better sort of symbol of, like, oh, yeah, don't pass.
Absolutely. Doors invite challenge.
Doors, doors are like, oh, we can somehow get through that. And believe me, have party will find a way. Like, do we have tools to take that thing off? Yes. And we're going to try.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or how powerful is my magical item? God damn it.
God damn you. Okay. So
my very first character ever was a barbarian, and our thief failed to unlock the door. He decided that was unacceptable and decided to open the door with his axe.
Yeah, rage on the door.
Yeah.
So I have a question, and this is outside the purview of this dungeon.
Yep.
But what? I mean, either one of you, feel free to answer. Like, how? Like, what was your first dungeon design experience, or is this sort of a? I know, John. Obviously, it's not new for you. You clearly have DM experience, but I don't. I'm curious to know Viking Go, because I don't know much.
I mean,
I'll let you go first, Viking, because I have to think, because it's been a long while.
I can actually tell you right off the top of my head that this is my second dungeon creation experience. I don't count the other stuff I've been doing lately with Mr. Albert here.
Okay.
It's more of a lore creation. But I've got a book here somewhere. Oh, there it is, Earth Dawn. Dawn
nice, man.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is like second printing.
Yeah, that looks like the second printing. Yeah.
But my friends got me into Earth Dawn in high school. We played twice, and the first time we played was to create a character, and the second time we played was to realize that we were just leveling up and going from 1 to 2, and that was it. And I'm like every kid in high school was like, I got graph paper, I'm gonna draw a labyrinth. I never played it though. It was just a really overcomplicated.
No, listen, labyrinths lend themselves to overcomplication. That's kind of their thing. And then you fill it with minotaurs, or worse.
I automatically decided they had to fight a dragon. Even though in Earth Dawn there's like 6 dragons.
Yeah, dragons are not a common thing. Like, fuck you, you're fighting a dragon.
Yeah, they're not named Red Dragon, Green Dragon, whatever. It's like this guy
Laufey,
over here,
or like the Dark Fang or something like that, or Ghost.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's not just one of many dragons. They're the named dragon, and there is one of them, and it's ancient and it's going to destroy you.
You don't win.
Yeah. So to answer your question, so I've been playing D&D technically since 2nd edition, and I started DMing properly in 3rd and 3.5.
Okay. All right. Yep.
So I have built dungeons as old as that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't remember specifically. I remember they were terrible. They were so contrived and ridiculous, and so my more recent stuff is a little bit more is better. I would say Viking could probably attest for that, and however he wishes. Yeah. So I think one of my favorite ones is that I built was an archive in a city, and beneath that was sort of this weird kind of quasi-dimensional zone that was owned by one of the archivists.
Okay.
And built it in there, and he called it the vault. And it was sort of just this like his personal sort of storage, but also traps and weird shit that he had collected, and just things that they had to overcome.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun devising that, because I could mix up kind of, very Temple of Doom-ish, Indiana Jones style kind of puzzles and things like that. Yeah, I threw in some undead for some fun, a sand trap. Yeah, lots of cool, interesting things. Yeah. So
Very neat. Very neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.5 was where I got my start DMing. And
it was terrible. Now that I look back at it.
I wasn't very good. I had the crutch of the old 3rd edition published adventures, like the site-based adventures, like Sunken Citadel and Nightfang Spire and Forge of Fury and all those. So that's how I built my adventure out of that.
Okay. Yep. And so full admission, like I've never actually run a pre-run ever.
Okay.
I've homebrewed and done all of my own stuff. Not that I'm like that's a brag or anything.
Right. Of course.
Pre-run. I don't know why. I've never done it, and maybe one day I will. I've never gotten around to or wanting to had this sort of motivation to do so.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. Not to say I haven't taken from.
Oh no.
Or,
yeah.
Been like, oh, this thing's cool. I'm gonna throw this in here. Yeah.
I still keep saying that one of these days we're all going to sit down at Adventures League during one of these conventions or whatever, just to see what it's like. I've never done an Adventures League, but seems fun.
I'm biting my tongue at that.
I don't know anything about them, so if you have an opinion, tell me.
I have tried Adventures League on 3 separate occasions now, twice in Indiana and once in Colorado.
All 5th edition?
All 5th edition, all run by different DMs.
Yep.
And each one of them has been a resounding disappointment.
In what way?
I have yet to encounter a group that was not entirely composed of psychopathic characters, for one. Like absolute baseline foundational murder hobery.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. Like the last game that I played, I almost murdered another guy's character. Because I was playing a Cleric of Helm, right? A deity of law, and like I was a lawful dude. And like he was just going around threatening to do like murders and trying to like say he was going to like sexually assault all the NPCs.
Oh god.
And I was like, you're a bad person and a bad character.
Yeah, that's telling of like more than just like, oh, my character's crazy. It's
and he did it specifically because he knew it made me mad. Is like the first time he did it, I was like, come on, dude. And then he just kept looking at me and being like, oh, I do this. Oh, I try to cause trouble. Oh, I try to murder that NPC.
Terrible roleplay.
And I'm like, I might hurt you in real life.
Yeah.
I might leap across this table and feed you an iron die. I might. I'm thinking real hard about it. His girlfriend who was playing actually a reasonable character, but also a criminal. I mean, like, she was a criminal. Her character was a criminal.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like Vikingo in the game we play, he plays a character who is both reasonable and a criminal.
Yeah, I mean, she was a reasonable criminal and a character instead of a psychopath.
Yeah.
And like she got to the point where she was detecting my ire, and like trying to make him stop, and he wouldn't fucking stop.
Yeah, he learned what button he could push, and he kept pushing it.
I haven't wanted to really hurt somebody in a long time.
I mean, but the fact that he was doing things like that to like piss you off is also just gross.
And that's
like,
every.
I'm gonna like assault your character. It's like you.
Like
no,
you're an asshole, and like I might hurt you now.
It's like the fact that you would think to just do that is not.
It's not good. No, it's very bad, and it's one of the reasons that I really don't like Adventure League, because every single experience I've had has had those people in it.
Like just psychopaths, effectively.
And and I'm like, what? Like, and I'm like looking at the DM. I'm like, you're kind of in charge of managing this, and like this guy's being a creep. Are you
Yeah.
not gonna do anything? And
Yeah.
in every case, no.
Oh.
Every single case. And
Yeah, no.
I'm just like, look, I've tried 3 occasions. I've tried to be an adult about this. I thought I was playing with other reasonable adults. I'm clearly not, and I'm just not into it. I'm just not into it. Now, I will say that that's my experience as a player. As my experience as an observer, I did the enforcer stuff at PAX Unplugged, as you guys are aware.
Yeah.
And my entire enforcer duties, that entire show, were helping manage the crowds for Adventures League.
Okay, nice.
And like, those are I was walking those halls and like listening to the games and talking to the players and the DMs.
And they were reasonable.
And they were, every single one of them was just, like having so much genuine fun. Everybody was, being very respectful of everybody else's boundaries. They had the X cards on the table. All kinds of things existed to make that a healthy environment and an enjoyable environment. And I got to talk to a woman who, what was her dwarf's name? I can't remember, but she made a dwarf barbarian, like fighter barbarian or something like that, right? Or no, it was like a fighter cleric or something like that. And she was so psyched to play her character, and I caught her on the way out, and she was so like jazzed about the experience that she had. So clearly, these experiences that are good exist, right?
Yeah, I could see Unplugged being like a PAX Unplugged being a good place for that, because they do have kind of social setting rules in place of like, if you're a dick, we're gonna just
we're escorting you out.
That's also why like enforcers exist. It's like, oh, someone's being harassing people or an asshole.
Yeah,
or
let's
something.
go and we're going
You're out
to
of the
fights.
convention, or you'll be talked to.
We're gonna
But
bring the
I find
proper
the people
channels.
who go to PAX are generally pretty, reasonable people as it is.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely true, and so I think that my experience of Adventure League is definitely not indicative of its potential.
Yeah, were you playing in game stores?
No, there's meetup groups for the Denver area. Like some are like 10,000 people strong. They meet up at bars and things like that.
Okay.
Not all at once.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, like, it can be kind of in multiple settings. Or
Yes.
different places.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like game stores, hobby stores, comic stores, those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Bars,
In my
homes.
defense, for Adventures League, I was personally thinking, when we're all hanging out together in person,
Yeah.
that's what we
That
do
would
at
be
event, like,
because
together.
that would definitely, and like a lot of people do that. Their gaming group, the people that they've gamed for their entire lives, they all show up to run a high grade Adventures League, like tier 3, which is like up to 20, and like it gets wild, and like they spend 8 hours at that table, busting ass and doing adventures, and they have the time of their lives. And they plan their entire packs around it. They're like, well, we have this session today, and we're there at this time, and we're there until this time, and then we have our next session, and it's a big deal for them, because it's like at that point, it's like the only time some of them get to play D&D as a group anymore. Yeah. So it's a huge deal for them. So yeah, much like how like MMOs have like pickup groups and like guilds and parties who roll together, Adventure League, in my experience, is much the same. You could have a great experience with a pickup group. I know a number of people had great experiences. I know that they did because I spoke to them, and they told me they had a great experience. I spoke to the DMs, and they said, I tried to provide a good experience, and I think I was successful. But,
you also have the other side of it.
You also have my side of things, where a pickup group of 8 people is 4 psychopaths and 4 frustrated human beings at the psychopaths, and a DM who...
Only takes one psychopath to ruin the whole game.
The DM, I will say, was very long-suffering, and he definitely knew that, like, we were having problems. So he cut the session an hour early.
Oh, wow. That's glaring.
Yeah, and I really didn't have the willpower to stay and talk to him, so I just left after the session ended.
I mean, and personally, like, I know it obviously went differently, but like the second someone was like, "Oh, I'm going to assault or sexually assault like another player character," I'd be like, "Nope,
no, I'm packing my things.
We're stopping. We're pausing right here, and we're sitting as people and talking about this
Yeah.
because that is not an acceptable
Yeah,
thing.
I would hate to say it, but I was definitely outnumbered in that scenario.
I would still do it.
And
I'd
like
just be
the crappy
sorry,
thing
guys.
is like
Yeah.
I was the newcomer, so
Oh, okay.
like this is an established like these people hang out together,
Oh, okay.
and I'm like, this is this is my introduction to you. This is
Yeah.
I don't like this. I'm very upset.
Yeah, I feel weird and squishy, like, and this is somewhat related, but like when I run games, like I have, it's somewhat of a swath of people like that I play with, like like people of color, like I'm queer myself, like we have people from different like religions or backgrounds and this and that,
Yeah.
and I feel squidgy like in game, like throwing in like a little bit of racism or something like that. Like
These
and
are
I'm like,
things that you have to approach with a
was
great.
that okay? Like was that
Yeah.
fine? And I was like, yeah, it's cool. We trust you. And I'm like.
And
But
like
I just want to make sure that no one's unhappy or anything like that. It's like
absolutely, and these are things that can be, present in worlds, but it is absolutely imperative that it's determined beforehand at at
or
whatever
you
point.
have a trusting group that's like, oh yeah, we get
Yeah.
what you're gonna do here. You're not
Like-
gonna just
One of the worlds that we're like my friends and I are designing, like humans are the primary culture that
Mhm.
there are, and like we're toying with the idea of you don't get to play a different race.
oh, okay, yeah,
Because the races are essentially one, they're either innately hostile to humanity or humanity is innately hostile to them. Like if we see you in the field, we like hang you from a tree. Like there's no trial, there's no rules. You are not welcome here, and we're not welcome in your area. Like that's the level of hostility between races that we're talking about. And a lot of the conversation is how do we present this in a way that is realistic in the sense that like this is the sort of experience that people have had, and we need to be conscientious of it, but also not shirk from the reality of the sort of bad aspects of humanity, but not glorify it at the same time, not put it on a pedestal, or not spotlight it, or not be like, this is the thing that you are going to do. Like how do we balance those two aspects? And that's been a very, very heavy conversation to have, because we want to play to the fact that for much of human existence, both in reality and in this world, we're a rather savage species of ape. We're animals. we happen to have this fascinating thing called culture and society, which even then some tribes of primates have as well. So we're really not that different. In any case, like it's a heavy topic to discuss, but like if that's going to feature in your game at all, if certain other aspects of the darker parts of reality are going to feature in any form, these are conversations that must be had. Like you don't get to just spring that on somebody.
no, nor should you.
No, should you? I mean, and that's the value of the session zero, in my opinion, is to hash out, where are the boundaries? Where do I need to stop? Where do you need to stop? Where are we comfortable existing? And I think that is something that Adventurers League could definitely benefit from, but it's not enforceable. Like you.
It'd be very difficult, especially with like a group of unknowns.
Yeah,
like,
and that's the point of Adventurers League, is to have groups of unknowns. It's to pick up D&D.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's just not the format that I like.
Yeah,
But
I can understand the pro and con of it. It's that you get to play and you get to meet new people, but you can also just meet people who are borderline psychopathic.
Yeah.
Sociopathic. Yeah. Anyways, let's build a temple.
Yeah, let's build this temple. we have lingered long enough. It's a good conversation, but it's not why we're here.
No.
So, now we've already discussed that these are sort of like little landmine operations with these trapdoor spiders.
Now, in those squares, is that one spider or is that many spiders?
That's mini spiders. I was gonna say D6 or D4 spiders.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I can see the square not being so much the boundary that the spiders are within, but more like this is just the concentration zone.
Yeah. There are going to be like in an area like little bitty spiders maybe, like because like they hang out, like the bigger ones are probably towards the center. I don't know how spiders work in colonies. They probably don't, but this is what we're saying. It's D&D.
It's your world.
It's D&D. Yeah. So definitely, there's going to be spiders all over the place, but they're not going to be able to punch through an armored boot, so to speak.
But the big nasty ones are
the
are
cocker spaniel spiders
Yeah.
are in these squares, and that's where they become problematic.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm going to get the party, and this is my opinion, and you tell me how you guys feel. The way I'm getting the party into this area is much the same as the antlion encounter, wherein there's something in the pit, the amphitheater, so to speak, drawing their attention, like shinies.
Well, that's precisely one of the reasons I was thinking that there's that the desiccated, decayed corpse of an adventurer back there. There's going to be some shiny. You're going to see him in the shade, and at first maybe you're going to think it's hot out. Let's go sit in the shade for a bit. And then you're going to see the shiny over there in the shade. It's going to be very obvious because you've got the sun is probably going to be behind you.
What about
There's going to be a glimmer?
since this is a low-level party, what about like putting a magic item in there that emits light, like a continual flame torch?
Yeah.
Something that has value and use, but also snaps the eye and draws your attention.
Yep.
That would be something a downed adventurer would have on them.
Like was exploring and got tagged by a cocker spaniel spider.
Yep.
And so, like, the entrance to this place is probably either under the bridge or, like, to the left or the right of the bridge. And it doesn't, like, you would have to wade through the water to get there.
Yeah.
And it sort of, the pool would sort of slope up in that regard. So, I'm comfortable with that.
Is there still water there then?
No.
Okay, yeah.
It's all sand.
Okay,
if there would be water, it would have been long evaporated. There's definitely less sand. And this also could easily double as a very defensible, natural, like, resting point in the temple grounds. Perhaps not. Some parties might be intelligent and not rest in the necropolis. You never know.
Clearly, we've not run enough parties.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No party I've ever known has been like, we should leave this dungeon to sleep. I've never met a party who would ever do that.
We're going to try and sleep in here, okay? Why are you rolling dice? No reason.
Oh, it's called the random encounter table, and y'all fucked up.
Yeah.
Y'all fucked up bad.
Meet my friend, random encounter table.
Yeah. Yep.
I can also see perhaps they've become motivated to go upwards for some reason or another, and a section of the bridge gives out, like on a percentile.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
But not enough that it would, like, hamper them from ever going up there again. Just enough that, like, or multiple,
like the bridge sort of like sags or like cracks and like or begins to break.
Yeah.
Something that's not like the bridge is not like 30 feet in the air. It's probably like 12.
No. But like enough for someone to lose their footing, fall into the minefield of giant freaking spiders.
And like blap, like, oh god, fuck.
It's like, and then
now
of the rest of your party has a choice. Do we run towards safety, or do we thusly help our fallen comrade?
Or help them run to safety.
Yeah.
One of the things
you give people some moral, ethical choices.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good.
See how that plays out.
It's team building. It's team building.
Yeah. And we just lost the cleric. Ah, shit.
So, I'm personally I like D6 monsters for these like small creatures. For like medium creatures, I'd say D4. But 1 D6 cocker spaniel spiders. And we could find the stats for those later. But I am comfortable with D6.
Yeah.
Spider.
So 1d6, yeah.
Oops. Oh. Shit. Let me make this smaller.
You could make it black and just let it sit on top.
Oh, I suppose that's true.
Painted black.
1d6 spiders.
Now the question is, like, the other two spots that are not over the bridge, like, how would you potentially tempt them? Like, just walking under the area?
Entrance to this area would probably be, like, under the bridge.
Okay.
Under the bridge.
And, like, without a sufficiently high perception check to notice the trapdoors.
If I can go May I warn you? Disney will sue. Do not.
Okay.
Just don't sing Disney tunes.
Don't. No.
We don't need a slap with like some kind of cease and desist. They are everywhere. They know.
They're spies.
Fine.
They're waiting for you.
Yeah, I can actually see them just walking straight through that westerly portion of spiders because that's a beeline from the entrance area.
Straight adventurers love straight lines.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's dirt, whatever, man.
It's the shortest distance between me and the treasure.
I just walked through 100 miles of dirt anyway. It's just more dirt, whatever, man. Spiders.
Oh, Jesus God, spiders. Spiders of unusual size. Okay,
DM's
cool.
favorite.
I like that we've got those two done. Now,
What else you got?
well, okay, we've got a lot of triangles to play with. I'm going to prepare for nausea.
Ah, that was bad.
Oh, oh God. So we have the central triangle here.
Mhm.
We have the quadrant triangles. And this. And these triangles where I have the arrows here and on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
I'm content to not put anything there.
Leave them just kind of like empty, open.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like they're just halls.
Like promenades up to the temple.
Like, oh, you walk into it, it's like, okay, you have the option of moving in different directions, but
Right.
they are like barren and decorative.
Yeah, probably a good chunk, maybe even half of this triangle on this side would be devoted to stairs up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good idea though, like, because then that way you have like transitory areas where like there's just nothing happening, so it's just like, oh, this is a relatively safe space, rather than like all of it's just death.
Absolutely, death everywhere.
I can see putting in some fluff for design, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so window dressing.
Make it interesting. You leave it safe-ish.
Yeah.
Like the players are on their edge of the seats because we've just entered this place. This is clearly a danger zone. Not really. It's not.
It's not. But it could be.
But it could be.
So.
But
go ahead.
you've got these hanging gardens to the south. You've got this water area there. Maybe this is where a fountain is, and water is diverted to these areas.
Okay, like an irrigation canal.
Almost, yeah, but more decorative. Like,
so
clearly, this is the source of the water. Now we're showing off this water.
Right. Okay. So the pool is here on this side. Could we then consider like maybe underground canal areas, like not very, maybe like 3 or 4 foot tall rectangles, but set underground with like little bridges over them?
I can see this. My hands are not
right.
really
Right.
Okay, so I can see that area where the steps up are less a step up and more like you can tell at one point water flowed under here and went into the space. Like water goes down from where this fountain is. And it gets diverted in decorative manners to the north and to the south.
Okay. So let me just hash some stuff out real quick. Nope.
Because then you have these nice staircases, and if they get hit with a haunt, they now see these tiny little waterfalls of water coming down on either side of the staircase.
You're a bad person.
Maybe I've missed my calling. I don't know.
So, like, if we were gonna do a fountain, it's an enormous fountain. I mean, that's at least 70 feet across.
Yeah,
Prepare for nausea.
Nah.
What?
But I'm thinking for the westerly area there.
Oh, for the. So.
Yeah, because it's watering the north and the south.
Okay, so like around here.
Yeah, like towards the center.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Up on this sort of promenade.
Yeah, it's like a statue of Thoth, like, and like there's some sort of symbols of knowledge and learning, but
and water flows, and you could go with the allegory that all knowledge flows from Thoth.
I'd like to take the credit for the allegory thing, but
hey, look,
didn't. It's you.
You said fountain. You laid the groundwork. So let's. Oh my God. Shape tool. You have betrayed me. Delete. Okay. Gonna zoom out. Scroll. Gonna zoom in. Okay. Draw shape. So, how large do you think we should be dealing with here, and where?
How tall is the statue?
Well, the temple, the maximum height of the temple is 45 feet. The minimum height of the temple is 35 feet. So this front wall, and this, sorry, hang on. This area would be 35, and it would kind of like build up.
I see Thoth being like 10 feet tall, but you're walking up towards him.
So he's much taller.
Seems much taller, but he's only like a 10-foot tall statue,
Okay.
maybe 12. So that means the base of the fountain might be like also 10 feet across.
Okay.
Because you have to have some space for the pedestal of Thoth, or wherever Thoth to sit it.
Yeah.
And then water around it.
Okay, so let's do these stairs real quick. Let's do this. Should we blue or pink for these? Since we're gonna be up.
A different shade of red, perhaps, just to indicate that this is, or pink works too.
I'm trying to think of something that's going to show up real well.
It doesn't have to be like super different, but just different enough to indicate that these are not. This is not like a border area. This is an actual structure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try bright. Let's see what bright blue looks like.
Cyan. Oh.
What?
My video card decided that it needed cooling off.
Sorry, I'm being a little bit weird. I'm trying to get the center of this square. Okay. And then let's say about half. Well, a little over half. Let's do right about here. Bam. And then now I'm thinking. I'm trying to think of how these stairs would look. I suppose it doesn't particularly matter. Like, but I care a lot, so.
Well, you're the one designing it.
I know.
If you're going for the whole triangular thing,
Oh, that's terrible.
it could be
I'm
like
so sorry.
like that going, or no, like that going up. So that regardless of wherever you are, you're going upward.
Right.
Perhaps you're coming in at oblique angles.
There. Okay, I can live with that. Oops. Okay, alright. I'm sorry, hang on. It's gonna be a Gideon moment.
That being said, that's a lot of staircase.
Yeah. But
Giant temple.
it's the largest, most wealthy temple in this necropolis. Oddly enough, the adventure doesn't even ever touch on it. It just completely ignores it.
Weird.
Yeah, and I was like, that's kind of what spurred this little project. Is like, I was reading
Mentioned it as like the most wealthy big temple, and they're just like, yeah, we're just not gonna talk about it. It's like,
we're not going to talk about it. You're
What?
going to this obscure, unknown temple that no one knows about.
also makes sense, but at the same time, you're also going to talk about the big, wealthy, rich one because
It's like literally got maybe a paragraph in total.
super strange.
Yeah.
Weird.
And I was like, well, the funny thing is I didn't know about the dungeon until like my party got into the necropolis.
Hmm.
And then they got into the necropolis, and it's like, oh, the archive of the ibis. And I was like, oh, weird. I wonder what that is. It's like, this is, this features in the necropolis. And one of my players was a cleric of Thoth. And I was like, well, this is amazing.
Can we go there? No, the book doesn't really tell us about it, so no.
And I was like, this is no longer amazing. I have disappointment issues now. But we're here now.
Yeah, there you go. Filling it with all sorts of unholy horrors.
Yep. Oh, we haven't even gotten inside.
Actual unholy horrors.
Yeah. Wait till we get inside. I was joking with Brian last week that I was like, I wasn't gonna show him the full magnitude of what I was capable of as a DM because I didn't want to give him ideas. Because I was like, I don't want you killing us. You just scored 2 monster books, and I really don't want to die.
I'm trying to think if that's actually happened within my games, as people have given me ideas as to like horrible things I can do to them. I'm pretty sure they have at some point.
You haven't indicated that we have at any given time.
Oh, I wouldn't tell you you've done it. You'd have to look me in the eye one day and be like, I know what you did, and I'm like, yep, it's your fault.
Whose fault is this? Yours.
It's like,
clearly.
you said something, and it's now your fault. You didn't have to make it into the game. Didn't I? Didn't I?
Who are you really mad at? Me or yourself?
Yeah. Don't give me ammo. It's just a bad idea.
Don't put this on me. You did this.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of stairs. But
It's a lot of stairs. But now they're there.
Yeah.
And I think
So
Thoth...
how does one egress and ingress to this room? Like, where would the door be?
So the
top of the
actual
stairs.
compound, there's no door to the stairs. They're
Okay,
just
so the stairs
they're
are just...
right inside the gate. It's
Okay.
like gate, stairs.
But then, like, into the rooms that are north and south, like, where's the doors for those?
They're not really rooms. I know
Oh,
that
okay.
it's all flat. They're just sort of delineating lines to determine
Oh, okay, yeah.
what's
Okay.
here. The
So
only real walls, so to speak, are the exterior dimensions of this rectangle
Gotcha.
and
Okay.
the dimensions of this rectangle.
Okay.
Anything else can be represented by a 2-foot high, hedge, or
Good.
something like that.
Decorative wall.
Decorative wall, a wall that has
Yeah.
no function other than to be
You create sort of like delineation between spaces, but not like
not hard delineations.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, cool.
And that's one of the
Oh, and
flaws
interestingly-
of Roll20 is it's very difficult to make delineations like that.
Yeah, you don't have dimensionality. You only
Yeah.
have the X and Y axis.
Once they get up those staircases, they can then see those 2 places, and then they can decide that they want to backtrack and go back in.
That's also true.
The very first thing that you're going to see upon walking into this grounds is stairs, Thoth fountain, temple, and then that's probably the first place you're going to go is up. And then looking around, you'd be like, "Oh, look, there's the something cool over here." And like, "Oh, look, there's a huge ass statue in the south."
Yeah, you give like little points of interest to be like, well, there's this here and there's this here.
And then let them hang themselves.
Yep. Just give them enough rope. That's all you gotta do. They think that rope is guiding them somewhere. Nope.
That's 15 feet. So 10 foot tall,
10 foot tall, 20 feet across.
20 feet
So the
across.
statue,
Okay,
The
all right.
it itself is 20 feet across. The fountain itself is 20 feet across because the statue is going to be 10 feet tall, 10 to 15 feet tall, which means its footprint is probably going to be like 4 foot across circle. You want some water around it.
I wish it wouldn't snap to grid. I wish also the drag tool would work. Prepare.
Ah,
There. Much better. And then we put a... go copy. You. Paste. Oh my god. Frustration! Okay.
Yep.
So, right about like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the
Center. Yeah.
Center-ish.
I mean, when you describe it, you say it's perfectly centered.
Yeah, I mean, it's Thoth. He's not gonna put up with that shit if it's not right. He'd come down himself, and be like, no, wrong. Your angles,
fact,
your angles are wrong.
Statue.
You are no longer one of my clergy. How dare you? Who do you think you are?
You need to write me a 10,000-page essay.
Oh, Thoth. Yeah, I said it. 10,000.
Expensive tote.
Okay, cool. Now, anything in the fountain, or is this our safe
I
zone?
would say it's obviously dry, but or maybe it isn't. Maybe this is the one place in this entire place that still has water flowing into it. Just weirdly enough. Just to like mess with your players to be like, why is that got water?
Why
in it?
does that have
What's that all
water?
about?
Yeah, it's like a dribble of water. Like you could tell that if there was actual like the amounts of water that were once coming out of it were to come out of it, this would be a very different place. But it's like a dribble.
Yeah, it's not even that this. Like, I don't know what the statue's made of. Maybe gold. Maybe it's.
I would go like a precious like stone, like not like I don't know, like a diamond or anything, but
like a
marble,
basalt or something
nice.
like something really hard and like
Yeah.
would weather time very well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So okay, or diorite or something like that.
something. Yeah, so like a hard stone that like does well under long periods of time.
Okay, and the only way
Don't
that
make
you
it, don't make it precious. They will want to steal that
yeah,
shit.
they're like, well, it's a 17-ton statue.
Is it nailed down? Fuck you guys.
Okay,
You could
trigger
also have it so that it was at one point clad.
like
and-
in
and-
gilded leaf.
Yeah, gilded leaf. You could tell from like it's people have come here to
It's
raid this place and they
scraped
have scraped it clean.
Ugh, yeah, I like it. But like
And
the
maybe
only reason that you can tell that it's wet is that it has like a sheen on it, like the statue does. It's not actually dripping water; it's just sort of pooling on it and like draining down.
Mm.
So like there's darker parts of the statue that are like wonder what's going on there, and it's actual clean water.
That'd be neat.
Yeah, and then like it draws creatures to it because water in a desert. Like let's be honest. 2, you have a source of water. That's very important in a desert.
Also, for a little thematic like piece, the way the water's dripping can make it almost look like he's crying because his temple is desecrated now.
Like it could the
water's
water
just
could
flowing down his eyes, and it's just like, it kind of looks like the statue's crying.
yeah the
I don't know.
water could be flowing or it originally should have been flowing from his crown.
Yeah,
Like or it's his whatever the headdress that pharaohs have has.
I don't remember the word. I don't
Or
know. I have to look it up.
his hands could be over his head. And the water pressure at one point made the water gush
Yeah.
into the air.
Yeah.
But now it's
It's
just
just
like
sort of
dribbles down.
Like
and-
you see like drops. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it. I like it a lot. And
Because that
could,
way you get like this feeling this temple's really just it's gone south.
it's had some
Yeah.
rough centuries.
Yeah.
First century wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Then the undead showed up and they kind of ruined things. It kind of
They
made
tend to.
things sucky.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I think that that's good. I think that we have an opportunity there for good RP.
Because it gives you like a sense of like, oh, this temple's just kind of empty and dry. It's like, well, no, there's some other stuff going on here. Like,
There could, like a lot of this. I love the idea of look at what it was. Look at what it
Yeah.
could have been.
Yeah.
Had this not happened. Look at the tragedy, the loss here.
Yeah.
All these beautiful things. All these
you
wonderful.
want to create some like thematic gravity into this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of describing it. Okay, that's the third of the temple handled. I like it. I like it a lot. I like what we've got going on there. Those are 2 really good encounter spots. A lot of like unusual. You don't encounter that kind of thing very often. What those encounters are going to do though is they're going to make the party very wary, right? Very.
Yeah.
So how do we shift gears in the second portion? How do we make it so that their pre-established notions are turned on their heads, or either enhanced or detracted from in some way? We've built paranoia against. We've built paranoia.
Oh, I know.
No one's.
I'm laughing because I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. We've built paranoia. No one's going to trust the ground that they're walking on, and that is a big deal.
So now the monsters need to come from above.
I like it. Now,
Maybe, and this is a good one, and this is just something maybe for later. Is you have a room that's like is the aviary, and you're like, oh, okay, this is where the birds used to be, and the birds come from above, but they're all undead.
I like it. I mean, mummification's a big thing with sacred animals.
Yeah, so you have, mummy birds. Mummy birds could be interesting as long as they don't inflict mummy rot, because that's horrible. That's a good way to like just destroy any party. At
Maybe
any
like
level.
lesser mummy rot. Maybe like mummy rash.
Yeah.
Like, it really hurt. It sucks.
Yeah.
I hate it. Okay.
Yeah. So I would say maybe do an aviary, because then you also do have like, again, you're emphasizing that there were the worship of the ibis in this temple.
Mm-hmm.
So this one room is like, it's beautiful, but there's a potential for an encounter there as well. You know?
I like it. Now,
Yeah.
here is, I like undead a lot as monsters. I think that they have
Yes.
they're not utilized to their fullest extent in some cases, in my opinion. There's a lot of opportunity and story that can go into them. Like,
Yes.
oh,
Yep.
it's 1d4 skeletons. Well, how did they get there? Like,
Yeah.
what were
Why
they?
are there skeletons here?
Why are there skeletons?
Where are the corpses coming from?
Yeah, like also like what kind of like it takes a significant amount of negative energy to power an undead creature. Right?
Yes.
They're,
Even simple ones.
even simple ones. That's an investiture of life into.
Yeah. So either there's somebody who's doing this, or something went terribly wrong in this space, and there's just lots of it.
Right. So,
Or there's a punishment for desecrating text.
Well,
You
that's
must
good
care
too.
for text for the remainder of existence as
I like where
a
you're.
zombie.
I like where you're going with that, and I already have an encounter in mind for the inside that I think you're gonna really like. I'm proud of it. Yeah, I can't take 100% credit for it, but I really like it. But
That's fine.
it's on the inside.
Nice.
What I'm thinking of is it's called a Hecuva.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Hecuvas are from 3.5. They are
Yeah.
the undead remnant. Like they're like an intelligent undead that, recanted their god or committed some grievous sin or rejected their god in a
Yeah.
moment of either weakness or rage or things like that.
Yeah, it has the old flavor of like the really old undead, where it's like, how did this banshee come to exist? Well, it's an elf female who dies of grief.
Yeah,
Like very specific reasons
Very
to why
specific
that thing
reasons.
exists. Yeah.
and Hecuvas.
Yeah.
What better creature to have in the desecrated temple grounds than the groundskeeper?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Still caring for the place.
Still caring for the place, but
Yeah.
in
That kind of also
in a
takes, like,
twisted
a note.
fashion.
It kind of takes a note from like what is it? The Return of Strahd, where you have like the old lich wandering around the Amber Chamber. Yeah, he's just like, why is he here? And it's like,
Yeah,
there's reasons. Yep.
reasons.
Because-
So,
But it makes sense. Like you have this, wandering mummy-like undead who's wandering around this temple dedicated to, a writing god.
right.
Why is it here?
Okay, so what if we kind of pervert because he's an undead and he's a perversion of life.
Yeah.
What if
As they
we
do.
twist this respect for avian creatures
Mm,
on its head? What if like this area let me ping it. What if this like entire triangle was like a garden, like with trees and with songbirds and with, bird homes and feeders and, places where birds could find their home, right?
Mhm.
And maybe even ibises too, maybe like pools and stuff like that, or where birds could nest. And there were these trees, like olive trees, or I don't know the name of the species of the tree, but they're kind of like low to the ground. They don't grow very, very tall, and they grow in very strange ways to like sort of up at a slant and then flat branches, and then the leaves and stuff go upward rather than outward in a dome. I cannot remember the name of the tree, and it makes me very angry. God damn it! There was one of those trees on my old property.
If you do figure it out, I would like to see it.
Yeah. Damn it! I'm gonna be mad about that. Fuck. Okay, so here's my thought, and we'll work this out together. So, hang on. What's going on here? Delete. Draw shape. So, in the center of this area, let's say that's where the big tree is.
Okay.
Okay, because that makes a lot of sense. And oh god damn it! Prepare. Gotta find the center of the triangle. Oh shit! It's not exactly centered, is it? Right. That is sufficient for my purposes. So a pretty large tree, and maybe even like a grounds area where like you know, so kind of like that. Hang on. This would be a lot more fun if like I didn't have to like fight nausea every time I zoomed in and out. It's pretty brutal. So like this would be the center of this garden area, and all around it are varying trees, right, in different areas, maybe arranged in. I know you can't see it, but like from these points on the triangles to the left and right, and like kind of like growing in terms of number as you approach the center until it's the great tree in the center. Or maybe instead of a tree in the center, it's a pool, right? And it's where maybe ibises hung out. Fair?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I know I did this in dark blue, but whatever. We're just gonna roll with it. So let me cluster some trees up real quick. All right. Oops, I forgot to group them. Hang on. Ah, my God. Okay. Advanced group. C. Paste. Dent. And one thing that I really like about Roll20 is the copy paste function for these tokens. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, that is one thing they definitely have done right.
Like it's a strange combination of like very user friendly to like ugh.
Yeah.
What was your plan here?
Who designed this?
And why?
Yeah.
I demand an explanation.
Now, I regret to inform you, gentlemen, but I must be heading out soon.
Okay. Well, we're you know we've spent a good 2 hours on this, and I think that we did the Lord's work. You know, or Tote's work. I think that we did.
I'm still curious where you're going with this perversion of,
Okay.
of bird
Instead
husbandry.
of leaves hanging from these trees, it's hundreds of bird wings.
Ooh.
Just and
That
like
is-
desiccated feathers and like okay, there's a species of bird called the butcher bird. It's also called the shrike.
Mm-hmm.
I know of it.
And they pin creatures onto thorns or barbed wire or sharp things or cacti to allow them to it's a larder, right? It's where they store food.
Yep.
And they're exceptionally lethal little bastards. I'm thinking like of a similar idea here, where it's done with like the utmost ritualistic care. Like so much time and effort went into profaning this garden, and it's the groundskeeper. Like all he has is time and the knowledge that I kept these grounds for my god, and now I desecrate them on like for the exact same reason.
That's twisted.
Very.
I mean, yeah.
It's
I read up on the creature, and like, yeah, it's usually clerics or paladins or some holy person who defies their god and is cursed. So clearly, in killing the symbol that is, Thoth, animal, that would get you a curse.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Your ass is cursed.
Yeah. So would this creature be in this room, or is this just like a kind of almost like a shrine to its desecration.
I think that this is where this thing spends most of its time,
Okay.
and I like the sort of convergence to evil, like the focal point of it.
Yeah.
I think that this would be a good end encounter for this area. I think that this would be.
So how do you keep your party out of this room though?
You can't get up there unless you come through. So is that a raised area?
I want it to be. Yeah, I want it to be because
I can see it being tiered. Like the northwest corner is lower, and then there's that walking area between this space and the northwest area, and then you have to somehow get up there. Maybe you have to go
into the temple. Or, well, no, maybe this ramp. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure how we would keep the party out of here, and I think that that's an excellent discussion, design-wise, that we should have for episode 3.
Okay.
I think the statue is broken.
The statue is broken?
The statue, you have that star there. I think it's broken and fallen over, and now you can walk across it. You can see that you can walk across it if you get on top of that resting area, or if you're down in. Or you can see you can walk across it once you get to the top, but it's not really all that obvious when you're down at the beginning, at the bottom. So you won't know to go up there until you're actually up there.
So this adventurer dead in the groundskeeper's area. Very few people venture into necropolises or necropoli. Anyway, they don't go there alone. They probably had parties with them. So maybe that was the last surviving member of the party, and like you see the evidence of other like rope bridges or like pitons in stone where like they were clearly trying to climb and stuff like that.
Find his journal and it tells you how to get up there.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe you don't. Or maybe his journal leads you around the other way. Or like
I can also see him collecting bits and parts from adventurers.
Oh, this guy? Yeah, and hanging them or like placing them as effigies in the pool.
Building.
Yeah.
Thoth.
Building a doom Thoth, a doom tote.
Yeah, building Thoth.
But
and
bad.
Just like as like an attempt to be forgiven, perhaps, or big screw you or something. Who knows what its motivations are? But it's harvesting parts.
It's grounds.
Is that a door?
Where?
To the north?
Where?
That's square? Toward the north?
Down here?
No, up at the far north.
Right here?
Is that a door?
No, that was just a marker location.
Okay. I was going to say, poor people who come in through there first.
No. There's only one door to this temple complex, and it's down here.
Okay.
Could you climb the wall? Yeah, but it's a bad idea.
Probably.
It's not wise. All right, so we can suss out just how to turn this triangle into the boss triangle. And
because people players, again, based on my experiences, will try to find ways into everywhere and be and telling them no is generally a bad idea.
Right, it won't do any good.
So it's you could get in there, but you need to do A and B first. Or A, B, C, whatever.
And I definitely have some thoughts on that, and I really do want to converge again next week if possible, to have a conversation about that, because my doom wheels are turning in here, and I wanna wreck some parties. Well, maybe not. No, I'm sorry. This is not the level for wrecking. This is a non-wrecking zone.
No.
I want to challenge them. I want them to experience the temple,
Yeah. You want to give them boot camp morning.
Yeah, this is level 1 through 3. This is what it's gonna be like. I hope you're prepared. I like it. Maybe not all the way. Well, we'll see. It's fine. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate your input and your help. It was fantastic to have a conversation with you and design these things and to talk about nerd shit. It was good. It was a good time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week on Monday, where we have episode 3, wherein we design the boss triangle and the perverse garden and perhaps even the perverse statue of Thoth in the center of this dead little pool. All right, well, thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great night. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.